Hello, everyone. I'm James Driscoll, and this week it's a pleasure to be joined by you, Paul, to talk a bit about what's happening in the world of replatforming. And so perhaps for those who haven't had a chance to meet you yet and know your company and your podcast, maybe a couple of words about you, if you don't mind.
Yeah, great. So my name's Paul Rogers. I am based in London. I run a company called Vervaunt, which is a performance marketing agency and e-commerce consultancy. And then I work as an e-commerce consultant. And then I also co-host an e-commerce podcast called Replatform, which is primarily focused on e-commerce technology and customer experience with James Gerd, who's also an e-com consultant.
So one of the things that you and your firm have always done and throughout the course of your career has been working very closely with brands, and brands whose value proposition and unique brand matters a lot to their business. And we're starting to see a lot of energy in the branded world where people are thinking about their next future of digital. Like, where do they want to go? How do they differentiate the brand? How do they stand out in the market? Curious, from your point of view, what do you think are the biggest drivers and objectives from brands who are thinking about this?
Yeah, so I guess the drivers behind replatforming, like, it can differ. Like, a lot of people look to migrate to a new platform for cost benefit. There's always an element of kind of modernization as well. But for me at the moment, it feels like a lot of brands are trying to become more agile and kind of gain more control over their platform. So we've certainly seen a lot of clients looking to move and just become more agile, kind of take ownership of their roadmap, like rely less on kind of external developers, be able to kind of introduce new tooling, bring in more kind of best of breed technologies, just generally kind of, give themselves more control, I guess.
Mm-hmm. One of the interesting questions that we're often asked, and we see in the market as well, and I'm curious if this is something that you've seen, is that there's a fine line on control. Of course, way back when we started digital, everyone just either bought a license or built the platforms themselves from scratch. And that was maybe too much control. And then the pendulum swung, as it does in technology, to more cookie cutter SaaS platforms where, as Henry Ford would say, you can have any color you like as long as it's black. Now the control is swinging back. But there's always that question about what's the right amount of control. Do you have an opinion as to, when you talk to brands, what they're looking to control and then what they want to just be delivered as services?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's a really important point. And I've had this conversation with many development agencies over the years, because a lot of the time I'll be working with teams that, want as much control as possible. And then, the agency or the people building the site want to build something they're proud of, and they don't want to, allow all of these teams to just then kind of control everything. And then, you move away from the kind of best practice that's been followed from a kind of design and UX perspective. So I think overall, for me, it probably, that best of breed kind of model gives you control in different areas, but you still have that kind of underlying architecture. And, you kind of still work within templates from a content perspective, but equally you have a lot of control over what you then put in those. But yeah, I think that's just a kind of a part of architecting a technology stack in ecom these days. It's kind of like choosing your tool, you have the various different tools that might make up that stack, and then just making sure that you kind of set parameters so the teams are able to kind of, control things themselves, but also not break things or kind of ruin the look and feel of the front end.
Mm-hmm. Well, terrific insight. Really appreciate you coming on, spending a few moments with me to talk about your experience and what we're seeing. Certainly, this is a very interesting time in digital. We're moving into an era where we're really starting to build sites and experiences that are so authentic to brands. So it's terrific to have an opportunity to hear your experiences and perspectives. Thank you very much.
Thanks for having me on.
Okay, take care.